Good evening, and it is time for our afterglow from our Ladies Bible Study. As you all know, we are going through In Christ Unconditionally, and it's the Old Testament case studies. We started a couple weeks ago and did just kind of an intro, and then last week we did week 1, and this last week today we did week 2, which is case study of Enoch, and the theme was walked with God. And the verse is Genesis 5:24, and Enoch walked with God and was not, and he was not, for God took him. And we started out our morning discussing an event in our life that caused us to focus more on the Lord. So that's a good thing to do once in a while. Think about what are some things that God has allowed in your life that you have used them to grow closer to God. So we had a good time, a lot of discussion of different things that have brought us closer to the Lord. Enoch was merely a man, and yet he made the decision to walk with God. It was a decision. He didn't have to. He chose to. Our choices, just like Enoch's, continually and repeatedly affect the outcome in our lives. Enoch chose to walk with God, and it resulted in a dramatically beautiful ending in his life. How amazing. He didn't have to go through death. And I know a lot of people say, some fear death, some don't necessarily fear the fact of this life ending and eternity beginning, because we know we have our hope is in the Lord, and that we have that wonderful blessing of knowing that our eternity is settled and we get to spend eternity in heaven. But some people say, I'm kind of scared about how it's going to happen. If I'm going to suffer a long time, or it's going to be quick, or how am I going to die? And how Enoch didn't, he just didn't die. He just was not. Kind of neat. One thing that was significant in Enoch's lineage was longevity. Enoch's father, Jared, lived to be 962 years of age, while Enoch only lived just slightly more than a third of that, 365 years old. But Enoch's son, Methuselah, was much like his grandfather Jared and lived to age 969, making Enoch's son the oldest recorded person in the Bible. I think most of us know that from Sunday school. The age and everything, it's probably the only person in the Bible that I actually know how old they are. It's Methuselah, 969 years old. Well, now I know a few more, but ask me tomorrow and I probably won't remember. I might remember Enoch because it was kind of significant that it was 365, and it just so happens to be 365 days in a year. Long lives were common prior to the flood. So observations on page 17. Number 1, Enoch walked with God after the birth of his firstborn son. And that was the first point. And the comments under that are, the birth of a child is a life-changing experience. Which was very interesting that happened to be what we were talking about today, because we had a new baby born into our family today, and we could not be happier. We are very happy and thrilled to welcome little Natasha Grace Harris into our home. AJ and Hannah welcomed their very first little baby into the world this morning, and she is doing great, and Hannah is doing great, and AJ seems to be doing great. They all are super happy, and we're super excited about that. But it is indeed a life-changing experience. That first baby, and really every baby, every child that enters your home, it's a life-changing experience. It completely changes the dynamic of your family and your home, and it's absolutely wonderful. There are always challenges, as I always say. Every stage of child rearing has its challenges, but it just gets better and better. That's what I was telling AJ today. I'm like, this little newborn stage is amazing. It has its challenges, but just wait till it's the toddler stage, and that stage is amazing. It has its challenges. Every stage has its challenges, but they just get better and better. I better not elaborate too much on this, or we're going to be here all night. It's just a theory, but there's a possibility that Enoch realized the enormity of his responsibility to be an example to this newborn. And I think most parents do. They hold that little baby in their arms for the very first time. They look at that little face that has never done anything wrong and is just like this perfect little baby, and the potential is just unlimited. The child could be anything, and it's a very the enormity of the situation can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming, because you think, I want to do a good job. I don't want to mess this beautiful little baby up. And so at this point, Enoch's walk with the Lord became a central focus. Even if Enoch's decision to draw close to the Lord was unrelated to the birth of his son, the timing remains the same. Age 65 was a turning point for Enoch. Number 2, Enoch had 300 years to influence others. As Enoch walked with God, everyone within his circle of influence had the opportunity to observe his faithfulness and dedication to the Lord. Number 3, Enoch did not die. God took him. We already talked about that a little bit. The Lord carried Enoch away, leaving his family behind. Was it perplexing to his family that he was suddenly gone from their presence, or did they witness the translation? I never thought about that before. It's kind of neat. I wonder, was it a whole family thing? Okay, Dad's leaving, we're gonna say goodbye, or did they just so happen to be there, or did they have no idea? Where'd he go? The Bible doesn't say. Maybe it says. I don't remember reading it, but maybe it says. Either way, Enoch was a unique man. His walk with God pleased the Lord so much that he was rewarded. Whether a person dies in his sleep or because of an unexpected event, death is often difficult. And we talked about that a second ago too. When we worry about exactly, how we're going to die. And even if I've said this too before, I've talked to friends, and even if someone lives to be a very long, like my grandmother, she passed away last year, this year. It's been a long year. Earlier this year, and she was 97. And even though we had many, many, many years with her, you just never have enough. It doesn't matter how long you have someone in your life, you just never. No, even if you're expecting it, you're never ready to say goodbye. Death is often difficult. And what a neat thing that Enoch did not have to experience death in any form. Number 4, Enoch's choice resulted in a blessed life. Walking with God is a conscious decision, and we are often choosing to be in the minority at the same time. This makes Enoch an Old Testament nonconformist. By the grace of God, Enoch discovered that the truly meaningful life is lived with God at the center. The Bible doesn't tell us how Enoch knew that walking with God would be best, but Enoch's decision affected the direction of his life into eternity. I see a comment here. Opinion for sure here, but I think it is easier when they're still living with you. Jesse, what's easier when they're still living with you? Comment on that, because I forgot what I was saying when you commented that. Anyway, yeah, the stages. Maybe the stages, yes. Yeah, it's hard when they're all grown up. Yeah, I'm not going to go there because they'll make me cry because I miss my kids so much. But that's okay. Yes, I think you probably have that right, and you've got one out of the nest, so you know what that's all about. So page 19, relevance. Number 1, pivotal events often inspire a closer walk with God, and that's what we started out talking about. Was what are some things in your life that have caused you, or you have allowed to be used in your life to draw you closer to God. Developing a close relationship with God creates a precious bond that will already be firmly in place when various changes affect our lives. We will not live without trials, but we will experience the contrast of joy and sorrow as God walks with us on the joyous hills and in the darkest valleys. One of the best ways to walk with God is to meet with him daily in his word. This is such an underrated habit, but it is essential to true companionship with Christ. Sometimes we forget that a personal relationship with Christ requires spending time with him, just as it is important to any personal relationship. And we talked about that for my life when I had my accident, that God was real in a way that he had never been before. I had never really had a trial in my life, nothing big. I had extended family that may have passed away, but I didn't really have sickness. I really didn't have trials. I didn't have trouble. I didn't have very many sorrows. I was a pretty happy kid. I grew up in a happy home. And when the accident happened, that was really when I really, for my own self, knew that, okay, this is big. This is far bigger than me, and I really need God. And it was a very dark valley where God made himself very, very evident in my life and in the lives of my family and friends, and very, very real. So number 2, yes, we all have influence on someone. New Christians are looking for someone to guide them in their new lives with Christ. The way we walk with the Lord may appear to be quote unquote acceptable Christian behavior, whether we're on or off course. Here are some examples of behavior patterns and some questions that you can ask yourself. Number one is our service. Are we willing servants or reluctant spectators? So think about that. In your church, in your community, are you a willing servant or are you a reluctant spectator? Do you, every time you have to do something, it's like roll your eyes, huff and puff. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I have to do this. Or are you like, okay, where can I be needed? Sure, I'd be glad to. Where can I help? I think most of the people I know are in the willing servants category. Our suffering. When faced with adversity, do we run away from or toward God? And sometimes it can be a back and forth thing, where sometimes at first, our first reaction may be, okay, Lord, I need you, and you're closer to God. And then as the trial continues, you might pull away and get bitter and angry. And then you realize, especially with COVID, I saw both stark realities where I know people that on both sides, both reactions, how they survived, I do not know. And you look at one set of people, one family, and they just allowed that to draw them closer to God and, maybe cause them to be sweeter Christians. And then on the other hand, just get so bitter and go to the things of the world. And it was just the suffering was not used in their life to cause them to be closer to God. In fact, they allowed that in their life to take them away from God. And so think about that. Think of something in your life. Maybe you're going through a trial, maybe in the past. Have you allowed that to draw you closer to God, or did you allow that to become something that you ran away from God in that time? And then thirdly, our sacrifice. Are we cheerful givers of time and resources, or are we selfish misers? That my husband has helped me so much with that. And I don't know that I was that selfish per se. I definitely liked getting presents, and that hasn't changed that much. I do love presents. And I joke that food is my love language. So if you want to show me love, feed me. Make me food. But when I married my husband, he is the most generous person I have ever met. If there is anything that he has that you needed and you said, you know what, I really need whatever it is, and he would just give it to you. He is definitely. And at first I was like, why are you giving all this stuff away? This is our stuff. And then I just realized that God worked in my heart, and it's so much fun. It is so much fun. And sometimes it's fun to just give, and the person you gave to doesn't even know that it was you that gave it to. You were the one that gave it to them. So anyway, think about that with our sacrifice. Are we cheerful givers of time and resources, or are we selfish misers? It's like prying our time, like any little bit of time to serve the Lord, it's just like pulling teeth, or, any kind of our resources or our time. People are searching for godly examples of Christianity that are real and vibrant. We talked about that this morning, that I've said recently, you can only fake it for so long, and then eventually the real you comes out. So we all need to work on ourselves so that the real you that people eventually are going to see anyway is something that we want them to see. And we want this world, especially the young people, but really people of all ages, they are looking for real, authentic Christians, not these holier than thou, or we're better than you, or whatever, and not even so, even the way we speak. I don't know. I just feel like it's so refreshing when you talk to someone and they're just nice, and that's the real person. They're not just faking, like they're actually nice. And people are searching for godly examples of Christianity that are real and vibrant. When they look at our lives, is that what they see? Our influence matters. Page 20, number 3, every person has an expiration date. We don't know what that date is, and we hope it's way in the future, but we don't know. The Bible says in Psalm 90, 10-12, the days of our years are 80 years and 10, and if by reason of strength they be 80 years, yet is their strength labor and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. At age 60, I don't know if I've got any 60-year-old people watching right now, but at age 60, a person is just under 22,000 days old. There is a very special significance in looking at life by the day rather than in years. We aren't assured that we'll have another year to live. We only have the next moment. At the end of a year, it's often difficult to recall the events that have taken place, unless they were out of the ordinary. Like, if you ask me, what did I do on January 15th this year? I don't have a clue what I did. But you asked me what I did yesterday, or you asked me today, I may still not have a clue. No, I'm just kidding. No, I could probably tell you a few things I did yesterday. We always joke. My husband and I, and you guys probably joke this too. My husband and I were like, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning, and you expect me to remember that? Oh my goodness, so funny. But at the end of the day, however, we can remember, evaluate, and make any necessary adjustments to how we handle the circumstances we face that day. Each day is like a package with a timer on it. I love this picture in my mind. Okay, so each day is like a package with a timer on it. We open the package when we awake from a night's sleep. The package contains the next 24 hours, divided into day and night. Every day is a gift that we will invest wisely or squander without a thought. And I'm ashamed to say, I've squandered many parts of days that I probably wasted them. I wasted those hours. I wasted those minutes. We don't know if we're granted tomorrow. I mean, I sure hope that we all wake up. But I mean, I hear stories all the time of people that just, they pass away in their sleep, or they are sick and they succumb to their illness, or they're in an accident. We don't know if we'll be granted tomorrow, but we have today. We have today. I have left for today about 16 minutes before I start packing up and heading to bed, because 5:30 comes early for this 48-year-old woman. Applying our hearts to wisdom is the way that we will glorify God and have a positive influence in the lives of others. We don't know that we'll have tomorrow, but we have today. So let's make the most of today. Number 4, page 21. I'm saying the numbers and the page numbers for those that are following along with this book. If you're not, don't worry about it. Walking with God brings blessings to our lives. Walking with the Lord is a spiritual workout, not a simple stroll. As we're walking with God, we're learning to trust Him with our lives, even when the way He is leading seems incredibly difficult. When we're not walking, I love this picture. I love this picture in my mind. When we're not walking with God, we're attempting to navigate life in our own strength with our limited vision. It's like we don't know what's ahead, but yet we're trying to lead our own life without the direction of the Lord. Walking with God deepens our lives, bringing meaning and purpose that we would otherwise miss. He truly is all that we need, and this becomes more apparent as we develop a close relationship with Him. Okay, so a couple closing thoughts. Would you say that you are walking with God, or are you mostly, I like this one too. This is kind of a neat analogy and like a word picture. Let's start again. Would you say that you're walking with God, or are you mostly running ahead of Him, shouting your hasty prayer requests over your shoulder as you go? Isn't that a great analogy of just, because life gets so busy. We talked about that today, that life just gets so busy. And I think sometimes the devil uses that as a tool to get us distracted from His word, from each other, from the world around us that desperately needs Jesus. Enoch did not run with God. He walked with Him. Take some time to examine your life for areas where you may have run ahead of God, and commit those areas to the Lord in prayer. Most of all, ask the Lord to teach you how to walk with Him. Enoch proved that walking with God is possible. And then I talked a lot about this morning. This verse, my life verses are my verses that I claim. It goes from here, like, when I was a teenager, it was when I graduated from high school, the theme of my graduation was so great a cloud of witnesses. So that was my, quote unquote life verse. And then I kind of just had that for a while. And then after the accident, I kind of claimed Psalm 27, 13 and 14. I had fainted unless I believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and He shall strengthen thine heart. And then more recently, I don't even know the reference, and I don't even know all the whole verses, but it's those verses, and I think it's in Romans, I think it's in Romans, where it says, What shall separate us from the love of God? Neither life, nor death, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God. And there's more to it than that, but the whole big, like 3 or 4 verses, such good verses. I've really, just every time I read them, I just get so excited, because it's like nothing can separate us from God's love. But then I read this today, and this kind of goes with the accident verses, and it's just so good. And I want to put it, I think I'm going to actually get it like put somewhere, because I just love it so much. Print it out or something. I'll get my husband to make a mug with it. He's so good at that. He makes all these stuff. He makes t-shirts, hats, mugs. He made these little bags for our Bible study books with our ladies Bible study logo on it. I can't remember what else he's made. He's made so much stuff. He's very talented. Anyway, Psalm 56:13 says, listen to this. This is so good. For thou hast delivered my soul from death. Wilt not thou deliver my feet from falling, that I may walk before God in the light of the living? Okay, so when I read that, I'm thinking, God literally delivered my soul from death. Like I was going to die, and God saved me. But even when we think not everybody in the whole world has, cheated death, so to speak. But as a Christian, as a child of God, he has saved our souls from eternal death. Okay, so if he can do that, for thou hast delivered my soul from death, wilt thou not deliver my feet from falling? Like, if I can save your soul from death, certainly I can keep your feet from falling, so I may walk before God in the light of living. I don't know. I get excited about that verse. It really meant a lot to me. Okay, so very last comments here. We live in different times than Enoch did, but that does not make walking with God impossible. It simply means that we need the Lord more than ever. This is so true. This world needs to see Christians that are living by faith in Christ unconditionally. Enoch walked with God, and so can we. So anyway, I hope that's a blessing. I feel like I just, all of a sudden in my head, I felt like saying the end of my husband's musing. So make this your goal today, to be good to those who come your way. For some you meet, me may be in difficulty seat. And then, how firm. No, I don't think that's the song at the end. Anyway, that's so funny that popped in my head. So if you have a prayer request and want to share that, I would be glad to pray for you. Next week, we are going to be talking about Abigail, and actually, there will be no not musing. Good grief, I've got the musing on my head. There will be no ladies' Bible study next week, because we are going to head out to Arkansas to meet the new little baby and see AJ and Hannah. And then there will be one the next week. It'll just be on Wednesday instead of Tuesday, because we'll be back on Tuesday. So no Bible study this week, in 1 week, whatever day that is. I don't even know the date. I can't remember. The 6th. So no ladies' Bible study on the 13th. And then the next one will be the 21st. So anyway, if you are following along in the books, let me get my page back. Sorry, my fingers are not wanting to do that. 1 Samuel 25 verses 2 through 42. So if you want to read that ahead of time, and also read, what we're doing is we're reading the whole chapter ahead of time, and then we're just kind of skipping around, reading the highlights and filling in the blanks. So anyway, I hope you all have a good night, and I will talk to you soon.